Ever wondered about nihilism? Today we're going to do something a little intense. And today we're going to stare right into the abyss and tackle one of philosophy's most intimidating ideas, nihilism. But don't worry, this won't be dry or boring. Think of it more like an expedition, a journey into a concept that, believe it or not, shapes our world way more than you realize.
So let's just start with the question that kicks this whole thing off. You know that quiet, nagging thought that can creep in late at night? What if nothing really matters? It's a deeply unsettling feeling, right? That sense that all the values we hold dear, all the goals we're striving for, might just be meaningless in the end. Well, that question? That's our doorway into the world of nihilism. All right, to navigate this pretty complex territory, we're going to need a map. So here's our plan. First, we'll dive right into that feeling of meaninglessness. Then we'll get our bearings by defining what we're actually talking about. After that, we'll trace nihilism's echoes through history, come face to face with its most famous philosopher, and finally, bring it all back to the challenge it poses for you and me today. Okay, let's get into it. Our first stop is understanding why nihilism isn't just some old, dusty concept from a textbook. It actually taps into a very real, very modern crisis of meaning. That feeling that the old structures that used to tell us who we are and what we're here for are starting to, well, crumble. So what are we really talking about? The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, who we'll be talking about a lot, he put it best. He said nihilism means that the highest values devalue themselves. It's not just about being in a bad mood. It's this radical, gut-level feeling that the things we've been told are the most important, truth, morality, purpose, have lost all their value. The why of our existence just gets no answer. Now, to really get a grip on this, we've got to be precise. See, nihilism isn't just one single idea, and understanding its different flavors is absolutely key to navigating this whole thing without getting totally lost. We need a clear map of the void we're exploring. The name itself gives us a massive clue. It comes from the Latin word nihil, which literally means nothing. So at its core, nihilism is a philosophy of denial, of negation. It's the viewpoint that says nope to certain fundamental parts of existence that, honestly, most of us just take for granted. And it's super important to know that nihilism wears a few different masks. You've got moral nihilism, which says there's really no such thing as objectively right or wrong. Then there's epistemological nihilism, which asks, can we ever truly know anything for sure? Cosmic nihilism looks up at the vast, cold universe and says, yeah, it really doesn't care about us. And all of these can lead to the big one, the one we're really focusing on, existential nihilism, the belief that life itself has no inherent meaning. So now that we've got our definitions down, let's take a look back. This feeling, this sense of the void, it's not a new invention, not by a long shot. It has incredibly deep roots, with echoes from thinkers and poets stretching back thousands of years. Our little journey through time shows a few key moments. We're going to start way back in ancient Greece with this profound sense of pessimism. Then we'll leap forward to 19th century Russia, where the word nihilist just explodes into popular culture. This all sets the stage for Nietzsche, who grapples with it as the crisis of his time. And its legacy? Well, that continues right into the 20th century, shaping a huge chunk of modern thought. Just listen to this. Over 2,500 years ago, the Greek poet Theognis wrote these incredibly bleak words. Wow. Nietzsche would later call this a preliminary form of nihilism. It's not a full-blown philosophy yet, but it's this powerful, raw expression of pessimism, the feeling that just existing is a bad deal. It really hits home just how ancient this feeling is. Okay, fast forward to 19th century Russia. This is where nihilism stops being just a feeling and becomes a full-on movement. Russian nihilism was this potent cultural and political force. It was all about a radical rejection of tradition and authority in every single form: the government, the church, even the family unit. This was the philosophy of no put into action. And this is the moment the idea gets its famous name. Ivan Turgenev's 1862 novel, Fathers and Sons, puts this very definition into the mouth of its main character. A nihilist, he says, is someone who just refuses to accept any principle on faith, no matter how sacred. This idea completely captured the imagination of a generation and basically cemented the word nihilist in our vocabulary forever.
And now we arrive at the very heart of our journey, Friedrich Nietzsche. No philosopher stared more unflinchingly into the abyss of nihilism. For him, this wasn't just some intellectual puzzle. It was the central, defining catastrophe of the modern world.
So, what was Nietzsche's big diagnosis? He argued that for almost 2,000 years, Christianity had been the ultimate antidote to meaninglessness. It gave life a purpose, right? Live according to God's will, get to heaven. But, and here's the crazy paradox, Christianity's own emphasis on truthfulness led to its own undoing. The rise of science and critical thinking, which were its own intellectual children, eroded the very faith that held the whole system together.
This brings us to one of the most famous and maybe most misunderstood quotes in all of philosophy. When Nietzsche declared, "God is dead," he was not celebrating. He was sounding an alarm. He meant that the shared belief in God, the very foundation for all Western morality and meaning, had become unbelievable. And the part about, "we have killed him," that means this wasn't some accident. It was the result of our own intellectual progress. The anchor was gone. So that leaves us with a critical question. What do we do now that the anchor is gone? Nietzsche saw two possible paths forward. The first is what he called passive nihilism, basically despair and resignation. It's that weary conclusion that since the old values are gone, well, nothing can ever have value again. But then there's active nihilism. This, Nietzsche says, is a sign of strength. It's the will to actively tear down the ruins of the old dead values, to clear the ground for something new, to destroy in order to create. And that brings our journey all the way from the pages of history right back to here, right now. We've stared into the abyss, we've seen where it came from, we've met its great prophet. So what does any of this mean for us, living in a world after the death of God? Honestly, nihilism's legacy is all around us. You can see it in postmodernism's deep suspicion of any grand story that claims to have all the answers. You can see it in existentialism, which forces us to stare our own freedom right in the face in a universe that has no built-in purpose. And you can feel its influence in this sort of cultural anxiety that if there's no divine rulebook, then maybe nothing really matters after all.
Ultimately, this explainer can't give you the answer. Nobody can. Instead, it leaves you with Nietzsche's great challenge. He saw nihilism not as a dead end, but as a transition. A terrifying, sure, but also a necessary crossroads. The old foundations for what matters, they're gone. The void is open. So the question he leaves for every single one of us, the question that really defines our modern lives, is this: what will you create to take their place?